guys, welcome to the Trip Through Teenage Time podcast.
I'm Walden.
And I'm Naomi.
In our podcast, we'll focus on teenage development and how to understand the adolescent mind.
So today, we're going to be backing it up a bit and talking about child development.
Even though, as you know, this podcast is really focused on teens, childhood is really important to how individuals act and behave.
Exactly. So, first, I wanted to talk about nature and nurture, a very overarching topic in development.
So nature is your genetics and nurture is how you were brought up.
Right. Many studies and documentaries have been done on the effects of nature versus nurture, one of them being The Three Identical Strangers, a documentary that tells the story of identical triplets, David, Eddie, and Bobby, who discovered they were triplets when they were 19.
At first, it seemed like a coincidence that the three of them happened to be separated into such different lives, but in reality, it was completely orchestrated by their adoption agency, Louise Wise Services. Dr. Peter Neubauer led the experiment, which separated many sets of twins who were put up for adoption to test whether nurture or nature had a bigger effect on people's developments. The families were never told about the other triplet, and the three of them met purely by coincidence.
Because they are triplets, they share the same DNA, so in theory, they should act the same.
That's where nurture comes in. There are 4 types of parenting styles: authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and neglectful.
Authoritarian parenting includes strict rules, discipline, and harsh punishments. Children of authoritarian parents often develop insecurities, resentfulness, and low self-esteem, and they can struggle with decision-making.
Permissive parents involve not following through with rules, a lack of consequences, and little interference with the child's lives. Their children often lack responsibility, development health problems, and struggle with decision-making and academics.
Authoritative parenting is the gold standard for parenting, and it involves creating healthy relationships with their kids, explaining the rules set, and using positive discipline such as praise. Their children typically have close relationships with their parents and grow up to be respectful and responsible.
The last type of parenting style, neglectful parenting, is when parents are absent either mentally or physically from their children's lives. They don't set up rules, spend time with their children, or bond with them. These children most often develop the worst qualities, including substance use, rebelliousness, delinquency, and low self-esteem.
Now, back to the triplets. Eddie struggled with a lot of mental health problems and depression, which was likely caused by his father's authoritarian parenting style.
The 3 triplets, Eddie, Bobby, and David, opened their own restaurant, the Triplet Restaurant. At first, things were going very well. It was well managed and they worked well together. After having to overcome tough business decisions, the restaurant ultimately had to close due to interpersonal conflicts and differing goals, most likely shaped by their parents' ideals.
The triplets had a lot of things in common, as you can see in many of their interviews. They look, sound, and act the same. But because of how they were raised, they have many differences as well in their beliefs, work ethic, self-esteem, and morals.
Okay, now to pivot a little more into development, we're going to take a look at Erikson's stages of development.
Erikson was a German psychologist who focused on studying children and the common trends between each stage of development.
The first stage is in the first year of life, and it's called trust versus mistrust. And it's if needs are dependably met, infants develop a sense of basic trust. So the favorable outcome is that the baby has faith in their environment and feels more comfortable. The second one happens in the second year of life, called autonomy versus doubt, where toddlers learn to exercise will and do things for themselves, or they'll doubt their abilities. So the favorable outcome is a sense of self-inadequacy. The third stage is the third year of life through the 5th year of life, and it's called initiative versus guilt. Preschoolers learn to initiate tasks and carry out plans, or they feel guilty about their efforts to be independent. The favorable outcome is they have the ability to start their own stuff and have initiative in doing their own activities. And then the 4th stage is the 6th year to puberty, called industry versus inferiority.
And in this stage, children learn the pleasure of applying themselves to tasks, and it's very similar to the 3rd stage. And the favorable outcome is that they feel like they can start things and initiate their own activities, and the unfavorable outcome is that they feel like they can't do things by themselves.
Left out,
and they feel useless.
Inferior.
That too. And the next stage is adolescence, which includes like the teenage years that we're focusing on. And in this stage, the crisis is identity versus role confusion. And that's where teenagers like try and find their sense of self and like their role in society. And they do this by like testing different roles and like combining themselves to form like a single identity. And the favorable outcome is that like they find out who they are and like they become confident in themselves. And the unfavorable outcome is that like they feel like they don't fit in and they're confused about who they are. And the next stage is early adulthood, and the crisis is intimacy versus isolation. And in this stage, young adults are like trying to form close bonds and like be able to like love other people. And the favorable outcome is that they can like make commitments and like become close to people and form relationships. And the unfavorable outcome is they feel like isolated socially or like they can't make friends.
If I was doing like academia, but I'm not. I'm doing dance. This is giving baddie. It's not giving academic. It's giving baddie. This is just not it. Pretty much the same outfit I came up with 5 years ago. Either I'm losing my mind or it's getting better, or I have just lost the plot. Let me put this on my story because you guys never fail to humble. Is this dark academic enough? This is the final look. I actually go watch Sophie Silver or something. Is this the best we can do around here?
As you can see in this video, this girl is like trying on a bunch of different outfits, and she's kind of trying to pick out like which one that she feels the best and which one like suits her the most, which is like the epitome of the identity versus role confusion. She's like trying to find her place in society and like just find herself and her identity and like what she wants to dress like.
And she's also like learning like who she is as a person, and she's like questioning her role in society, and like this helps her form her identity that's like ultimately gonna like shape who she is as
even
a person.
As a simple action, it'll like it all comes together to shape like who she is, who she wants to be, like who she is.
Because at the end of the day, like each person is not just like one thing. Like you are not defined by one interest, but like all of them come together to form who you are.
Layers, but different layers.
Like an onion. Yeah. However, this can be difficult with the judgment from their peers. A lot of time, teens feel pressure to fit in with one specific role or vision of how they should act based on what others think, which can create a lot of pressure to not deviate from their role and find their true identity.
Okay, so to end our first episode, we're gonna do a quick, like, what did you learn quiz. Question 1. Which parenting style is considered the most ideal?
Authoritative.
Question 2. Which of Erickson's stages are most teens in?
Identity versus role confusion.
Okay, last question. Which of the following focuses on genes, nurture or nature?
Nature.
The main focus of this episode was childhood development, but all of these choices you make, how you were raised, and your genes play into who you are as a person.
Right, and this includes beliefs, morals, and relationships.
All right, that's all for this episode. See you next time on the TTTM podcast.